Well, good morning, good evening, good day, whatever it may be where you are at, and welcome back to Carpo's channel, Carpo 719, Carpo's Corners, Carpo's World of Thoughts, or 15-minute free thinking, or any of the several different labels that I've attempted to give my my show over the years. It really depends on where I post something. Got a pencil on my ear here. As many of you know, have been making YouTube videos for about 10 years now. I have a wide variety of topics I have discussed. I haven't really checked in lately, but last time I looked it was around 3,980 something videos. So I'm going to guess by now I probably hit the 4,000 mark. So let's just say this is the 4,000th video because of all those who have been deleted, privatized, unlisted, or deemed by YouTube as irresponsible. There are certain topics that, when I do talk about them, no matter how responsible and respectable I try to be, YouTube always seems to not only make them demonetized, but just for adults, but also completely delete them and give me a strike on my channel. Not here to talk about this. I just wanted people to know that many of my videos are off the cuff, off the top of my head, and in this case, it's no different. Sometimes an idea pops into my head in the morning and I just have to discuss it. Today's discussion is about happiness, but it is such a... I can't even think of a word. I seldom can't think of the word I want to use, but happiness is a very silly thing to discuss because it is so subjective, as each individual has to discover what makes them happy, but also what happiness is. I don't believe in happiness as a state of mind where a person can learn to be happy. It's a facade. It's a complete illusion. If anything, the Buddhists come closest when they discuss the yin and the yang, which can be so many different things, but mostly for me, that's taking the good with the bad. It doesn't mean that they are in equal proportions. The deeper you think about happiness, the more you realize that you can't define it. It's like evil. How do you define evil? There are some things that people do that seem horrible, but in the right context, it could be something that's actually beneficial to them or preservation of their own lives, whatever it may be. There are no absolutes, and that makes it difficult for us to build a coherent structure to adhere to as human beings to live our daily lives. This is why we create political structures, economic structures, religious structures, in order for us to come together and try to at least agree on some basic principles about what we're here to do and how to live our lives. Unfortunately, many of these same models were never designed, nor have they been used to actually bring happiness. Now, people may say happiness is not the end goal. There are several different philosophies about what happiness is. That some people believe that nihilism, for example, means that you just believe that life has no inherent value, when in fact you look deeper and nihilism really means that you create value for yourself, not based on preconceived notions about what is real and what's right and wrong. That there's an inner structure within each of us that will tell us when something is useful or not. That there's an inner voice that will tell us when we're doing wrong or doing harm to others, or when something actually will bring us happiness. But we ignore these inner voices. We ignore them because of what we're told through the external world. An example would be making a decision for our life that could benefit us and our families and bring us more joy and happiness, but we are afraid to make a decision based on it's not within our political party to think that way, such as maybe a social structure, let's say, that could help your neighborhood or your community, something you really need. And even though you're paying taxes up the yin-yang, I had to use yin-yang there, you're paying all these taxes, and you find that there's a structure that could benefit you and your people, but you're afraid to approve it or agree with it because you might feel like a, quote, socialist. Or perhaps there's the same type of program, but your religion forbids it, for example. Or you want to interact with loved ones, but maybe your religion forbids interacting with those who don't support your religion. Then there's even people who treat each other like shit based on their socioeconomic status. Oh, well, I don't want to hang out with people who are of lesser financial, value because they all want to use me. And I use that one as an example because wealth does not bring happiness. In fact, it brings, from what I understand, I wouldn't know because I'm not rich, and this is arguing from ignorance in a way, that the people I've heard talk about these things say that, well, I'm wealthy and it made me more suspicious of my friends, family, and neighbors, and therefore I only interact with groups of people who are like-minded. This is the tribalism that we as humans have always moved towards. It's not a bad thing that we gather in groups that benefit us and that benefit each other. It's not a bad thing that we stick with, quote, our own kind. And I'm not talking racially or financially, but those who think like us. And often the reason why certain people think like us is because they share the same, quote, religion, politics, or any other of the big ones. Even growing up, I was told you just don't talk religion and politics in the workplace. Never did I think that science would be in that group. Even people who trust in science have to, deal with the fact that a lot of the science is biased, or scientists that are hired for a particular company. So what I'm getting at here is that we are put into this world of chaos, and it's continuously getting worse each year. Therefore, this elusive term, happiness, is something that I think has become a little bit of a meme in itself. The idea that we can never completely be happy all the time is, as I said, an illusion. And this is because happiness, I believe, is in direct response to some of the adversity we face. This is why you see some of the people who have faced the harshest childhoods or the most adversity in war-torn zones will often be some of the most outspoken, not just critics, but activists for a cause, because that's what brings them joy, is to help others who have been affected by the same thing. So often our happiness is brought on by helping others. This is why service to man, service to our fellow people, is considered so valuable. Now, most of us are pretty selfish with our time. I mean, sure, anytime you're reading a book, perusing the internet, you could be out helping somebody else who's less fortunate. But we can't spend our whole lives helping others. There's a certain component of pulling yourself up, if you will, that we do revere in society. And I guess I'm kind of touching on these points because I think that every aspect that we hotly debate or contest, that others make claims that we disagree with, if you really get down to the root reason why we even argue or debate things, it's because we want to be happy. Now, there's two, I guess, points that I could nail here. Is sometimes people are angry about something because they know that another group is ignorant about something that will help a lot more people. It's a utilitarian viewpoint. Sure, that one thing might not help you as an individual, but if you can see deeper, and you can see that something's going to help a lot more people, a lot of people get frustrated and angry because they see that so many people are unhappy, and that could change so easily if we only made a decision like A, B, or C. I want to shift gears here because I don't want to really speak too much societally, because I could go on for hours about that. Let's just talk about individuals in our lives that hold us back from being happy. Some people choose drama. We all know drama queens. We all know drama kings. We know every one of us, I guarantee every single one of you out there who has family and friends, which is probably everyone, somebody in your life, there's guaranteed to be somebody who, every time you talk to them, every time you have a discussion, the first thing that comes up is complaining about other things in the world. It's not about a local discovery that has changed lives. It's not about an inspirational quote they heard or something that's really solid in, in the realm of benefiting humanity, but rather finding the one person who's the scapegoat for all the world's problems. The Bill Gates demons, or whatever president is in office at the moment that can be blamed, which sure, they can all be blamed for plenty of things, but society is billions of people, much bigger than any person in a suit and tie who still shits, showers, and shaves and wakes up every morning and reads the paper or looks at the internet and does the same shit as everyone else. We've kind of elevated certain humans to a status where we look up to them and we trust them to give us our happiness, to tell us how to be happy. Like, this person is going to solve our problems so we can all just live in peace. But how stupid are we to think that that's even possible? That any individual or group or law or lack of law could bring joy to us consistently or improve society to the point where everyone is dancing in the streets, right? So as I said, some people choose drama. They love to live in drama. They love all the problems in the world, not because they like problems, but because it gives them something to complain about. And what I've learned is that, and this may offend some, and some may shake their heads in agreement or disagreement, but the people who seem to complain the loudest, the ones who talk the most about the most problems, the ones that are consistently complaining, are one of two types of people. Either A, those who don't do anything with their own lives, so they're just unhappy, and so they want to point the finger at everybody else who does anything as the problem. Or B, people who are making a vested financial interest off of this. The Alex Jones of the world, for example, who can put up just some sort of rant or rhetoric that will pull in views, which will create ad revenue or sell some sort of wiener pills, whatever it might be. This is a well-known, method of, all you have to do is go to like Breitbart.com or Infowars.com, which I regularly just look through the first page, just to see what are these folks who are claiming to give you all the truth, what are they really offering? They're claiming that the left is the problem, but everything is just miserable complaints and anger and frustration. I only point this out because I observe this also in the far extreme left. I see this in not just both political parties, but I see this in extreme religious groups and also extreme atheist groups. There's an underlying frustration about our own lives. Sometimes we will push this onto others or other groups, and someone else is always the problem. Anytime you find yourself pointing the finger at another group for being the source of your problems, it's really important to question whether that's true. Do you really have a case? And if you do, is there anything you can do about it anyway? Because what I've found is that most of my complaints in life, I have analyzed carefully and realized that it's my own either A, insecurities, B, confusion or misunderstandings about life, or C, lack of action. A lot of us have a lot of freedom in the US, for example. Even though it's hard to start a business, that there's patent laws that hold us back, that there's fines and fees and licensing and all these hoops to jump through. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of BS. I've started my own business twice. I know what it's like. Even being a carpenter, going through stupid courses that have nothing to do with what you know, but rather, do you understand the law? I hate bureaucracy and the whole system that we've created. However, much of the time when people are unhappy or complaining, it is because of their own lack of effort. But quite often, that's not the case. Some people do work through 2 or 3 jobs and try to make mortgage, try to make rent. And there are some areas out there where people really do suffer. So I'm not denying people's suffering, but saying there are a lot of opportunities for us. If I don't have what I want in life, if I'm unhappy, it's more likely that it's going to be my own either lack of inaction or, which is more common with most Americans I know, making a bad fucking decision that ended up costing you. And don't complain about the system if you were drunk driving and you got busted doing it. I've had plenty of friends who had that happen to them. So you had to go through all these classes and diversion. That sucks. And sometimes people get caught up in it, but it also prevents some of these people I have seen behind the wheel from just consistently putting others in danger, right? So I'm not in support of the whole legal system here. What I'm saying is that laws and regulations, if they're done properly, are intended to basically be utilitarian. Utilitarianism is the idea that whatever benefits the most amount of people should be the implemented strategy. So it's a tough one, because it would be very similar to like democracy, where if 51% of the people benefit from something, then you should say pass that law. But the problem is people are ignorant. They don't know what they need. We see this over and over. People vote away from their own interests because they're either sticking by their party or their group, or they're voting with their religion. But most likely it's just people are going along with what they've always done. And so I guess I'm going to say, where are we right now as a society? As far as making a happy utopian society, it's a facade. It's not going to happen. I don't believe in it. I would love to. Hey, I'm a hippie-minded guy, right? I've seen the possibilities. I've shed tears for the amazing things we could do as a society with, let's just say, after a catastrophe, which is bound to happen. Let's say there's 500 million people left on Earth to rebuild, and we're still able to build back a little bit of the structure. We're never going to lose it all. We'll still know how to build shortwave radios and communicate, right? So people around the world say, hey, let's not make the same mistakes again. You come together, you start utilizing the good farmland you do have, you use sustainable crops, companion planting, you have winter crops so you don't just have the soil barren and blowing away like the Dust Bowl of the 40s in the US. We've been through some hard times. People are happiest when things are just flowing along as normal and you can enjoy your routine. And as a man who's 45 now, it's taken me some time to really appreciate routine and how much it means to people to be able to wake up in the morning and know you've got the cup of coffee or the tea, and then you're going to go out and do this or that. You don't have to wonder whether there's going to be some major climate catastrophe the next day or an emergency, wildfires. I mean, we're facing some hard times, so happiness becomes more elusive. But the reason I'm pointing out disasters is because happiness really has nothing at all to do. I should say, being happy is not relevant necessarily to what's going on in the world or around us. So many people who complain about the problems in the world, I want you to think of the one friend you have or family member or someone you've met online who is constantly talking about the state of the world and how horrible it is. And then ask them one question. If you walk out your front door, how much of it do you see? Sure, if you live in Detroit, you might be aware of the high crime rates, and you may live in an area with shootings, but how many actual shootings do you see? Let's say yourself. Some places you're extremely in danger. Others, like Portland, sure, the shootings are up 600%, as my friend pointed out, but I'm not any more scared to walk down the street because I still know most of these are related to people who either knew each other or drug deals, something of the sort. My point here being that we as a society are more fearful of the unknown and the things out there that we don't even experience than I think we should be. Before I go, because this has turned into a long video already, self-pity is useless. When people complain about being unhappy about the world issues, that's one thing. When they start complaining about their own ailments, their sicknesses, Look, I've been in physical and mental pain before. I know how it feels. You have to get over it. You have to be able to fight through that. We see strength in people who are completely incapacitated, that make the best of it. And it doesn't mean we always can, but we always have to. And we have to avoid self-pity because that takes away from our happiness. It's useless. Another thing is that we can never really tell how other people feel. It's an old philosophical view that you can't put yourself in the mind of another person, and you never will be able to. And even if you were, you wouldn't be able to analyze that person's thoughts because you still have your own. It's something I had to think about for a long time to really begin to comprehend, but it really is impossible to see through another's eyes, no matter how hard you try, so we just have to do our best. But what's really important is to realize that people put on a fake smile all the time, and we find ourselves doing it as well. It's okay to do. But because of this, we see the television, we see actors, actresses, we see, all these people who seem happy, and the commercials, oh man, everybody's dancing around and having so much fun out on the water, and all you got to do is drink this beer or smoke these cigarettes. Those ads have worked forever. But that's not the reality. When I see people who act happy all the time, I always picture them in their reality mode when they wake up in the morning, or they get in an argument with their kids or their parents or their friends, or, are sitting there typing on Twitter. Everybody's human, right? Everybody's just human. So the illusion that everyone else is happy is just that. It's an illusion. People put on a fake face. Being aware of that means that we can realize that we are in the same boat. So when it comes to figuring out what is important, I think listening to your heart is important, extremely. Listening to your heart and your mind. But perhaps your dreams as well. I have a lot of apocalyptic dreams. They're quite intense. My oldest son had one, or middle son had one last night, actually. It was interesting. He said that apparently the Earth, the sun was going to blow up or something. It was going to destroy the Earth. So everybody had to get on these cryogenic things and on a ship and be sent to the moon. And so they all got into this thing, and just as they were leaving, the Earth exploded. I just heard it secondhand through my wife, but it really sounded similar to the ones I have. And I bring up dreams because I think that dreams are correlated to our happiness. Not that bad dreams mean we're unhappy. That's the thing. I know people who have nightmares. I think that people who have consistent nightmares may have some underlying issues that they need to deal with, but it's really hard to analyze what that means. I'm not I'm not a shrink, so I'm definitely not one to analyze, but apocalyptic dreams, for me, I can kind of translate on my own, say, okay, I know how I'm feeling, perhaps overwhelmed, but it reminds me that our time is fleeting, happiness is fleeting, and we have to make the most of what we have while we're here. So don't do too much thinking. Somebody told me that once, and I thought it was a ridiculous viewpoint, and now I get it. I really do. And don't let hard times pull you down, because they are going to happen. And we have to get over it. Sadness is not something to ignore. You don't have to hide your feelings. If you're upset, if you're mad, if you're frustrated, then express how you feel and move on. But don't die miserable. People who are sitting on their deathbeds, what really mattered was not taking things too seriously, loving their family more, spending more time doing things and not worrying about money. But we as humans are conditioned certain ways, and to overcome that, we have to be able to think outside the box. So thank you all for listening. Have yourselves a wonderful day. This will be likely available on my podcast, 15-Minute Free Thinking, as well as my YouTube channel. Since it's long enough, I think I should post it on both places. Thank you to all my patrons, as well as my new patrons, a couple new ones. I think it was Jiris and TheRealFolkBlues, Kendra, Dayne, and Ken. And I'm about to try to get a new computer so I can do editing again, so I'll be able to put in the list of patrons, because I'm still working on a computer that's from the 1800s here. And take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. Don't worry about things. Don't stress yourself out, because it's not a solution. It just, having self-pity and worrying about the future does nothing. I don't want to put it too bluntly, but yeah, we're all going to die one day. Let's make the most of what we got here, which means be as happy as we can. Thank you. Talk to you next.